Yeah, we are live. I'm wondering, are we expecting Julie Winter on this?
As far as I know, I was not able to actually speak to her, but she did get an email and a
Wait,
voicemail.
I see she just signed in. I'm going to promote her to panelist.
Okay,
I see Joe's on there.
yes. There she is.
Hi, Julie.
Hi, Julie.
Okay, I think we have everybody.
I've got one screen that's just got the logo on it.
That's Michael.
Yeah, it's necessary for me to be signed in to run the show. So it's also showing people how they can participate with public comment.
Are you able to slide over one slot so that Joe can be on my multi-screen position instead of you?
I don't think so. I don't think I have any control.
Amy, can you sign off on video? No, you'll still, or Michael can, maybe Amy can still take roll call, or after she takes roll call?
Yeah, I can bump Amy down to an attendee and then just allow her to talk. That should work.
That's fine.
Okay,
Okay, one moment.
that'd be great.
Leonard, I can just text you a picture of me and you can just put it on your phone right next to you.
You know, I'd like you to do that. Is it a current one though?
Do you want a current one? Because they frighten me, but I can find an old one.
Well, we all got plenty of those. All right, so I think we got enough people here.
Leonard, if you hit gallery view, can you have them all? If I hit gallery view on my laptop, everybody, I can see everybody.
Well, that's what I have, except I don't have Joe. I have
Got it.
Mike. So
Got it.
okay. All right, so I think we have everybody here. So let's call the meeting to order. And we'll start with the roll call to see who's here.
Good afternoon, board members. We'll start with roll call. And we have Board Member Commenti.
Here.
Board Member Rickert.
Here.
Board Member Modi.
Here.
Board Member Browning.
Here.
Board Member Resner.
I'm present.
Board Member Winter.
Here.
And Board Member Watkins.
I'm here.
Thank you. We have our executive director, Dan Little. Dan, you're here, right?
Yes, I am here.
And what staff do you have with us?
I believe we have Michael Cooker on the moderating the meeting, and Amy, and I think the other staff is just in listening mode.
Okay. With that, we'll move to item 2, the public comment period. This is the chance for anybody from the public who wishes to address the board on any item that's on the agenda or under our jurisdiction. Is there any public comment?
Please use the raise hand feature in Zoom if anybody would like to comment.
So I'll wait 30 seconds to see if anybody pops up.
There is not any.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our regular calendar, item 3, which is the emergency construction contract. And Mr. Little, go ahead.
Yes, thank you everyone for attending this special meeting. I appreciate it on fairly short notice, and thank you, Aaron, for appearing as an alternate. We do need 6 votes for this item, so appreciate everyone's attendance. In June at our regular meeting, I updated the board that when the downstairs tenant was doing some interior remodel work that we encountered mold in the building. Since that time, we've had the mold tested. We've had, luckily it wasn't black mold, but as we got that mold remediated, we found dry rot, and it was kind of like peeling back an onion. As we uncovered one area, we thought we were done, we discovered more. Finally, by August, the full extent of the remediation had occurred We believe we got all the mold, or, you know, as best we can. There's always a chance we can uncover more as we delve into more, but we tore out every wall and followed that mold to where it no longer existed. And so from that August 18th date, when we knew the extent of the damage, only then could we prepare some kinds of plans for what the repair work would involve and what the cause of the water intrusion was. So that went underway immediately, and then in early September we'd finished those and got our building permit into the city of Reading. So so where we're at now is trying to get that remediated, and the extent of what we have to do because of where the water was coming in is pretty extensive. We have to remove all the balconies except for the major concrete balcony that's over the front entryway. So that's 3 balconies that are on the building. That's the basic cause of the water intrusion. There are some roof issues with the way the roof was designed and poor drainage as well that was creating a problem, as well as windows and just general seals around the building. So the extent of the repair, because we'll have to tear out large patches of the stucco, and right now the building is exposed to the stucco, you know, the chicken wire and the stucco. We need to get that at least stabilized before the wet weather season and hopefully get the repairs underway. And public contracting code allows us to do an emergency declaration where we can waive the entire public bidding process if we want. But because we had time waiting for the building permit and the plans, we tried to attempt, you know, as best we can, a competitive process to get a fair price. So we sent out to a short list of 5 contractors, and the bids were due Monday. And let me back up a minute to go to the repairs. So besides the stucco, removal of the balconies, we won't be replacing them because they're not really used anyway, and replacement of the roof, a complete re-roof, which we knew would be needed at some point anyway because it was at the end of its useful life. And then if you can picture the building, there's a wall with a sign attached that then comes in with some architectural features that attaches to the building. Those were also contributing to leakage problems. So that's going to be completely removed and just a new freestanding monument sign put in. So anyway, back to the 5 contractors that we knew were interested. One had done formal remodel work on the building. One was the contractor doing the tenant work downstairs. And then 3 others recommended by Nichols, Melberg, and Risotto, who we have on retainer, and we had prior to this for work we were planning on doing anyway. And when we had the bids, we knew this before the opening, but nobody ended up bidding on it for a couple reasons. 2 of the contractors could not bond for the work when they thought they could. 2 of them just did not have the capacity to take on the additional work, because as you can imagine, people are stretched so thin right now. The other one, Goring Construction, Forrest Goring, wanted to bid on it, but didn't have time to do the fairly quick time frame we had of a couple weeks to get in a bid, but is still interested in the project. And so what I'm proposing to do now in the staff report, the way it's set up with the action items allows for this, is I believe it's in our best interest to negotiate with Goring Construction for a contract. And I know that getting a fair price is a concern, as well as the timing of it. And what Forrest Goring has recommended is to open his books and his bid up to us in more detail than a public agency would normally get. So we would know who all the subcontractors were, which is, you know, the vast majority of the work, what subcontractors bid, what their costs were, and what the profit margin is on that. And then furthermore, we take that and look at fair value and have pricers, price control people through Nichols, Melberg, and Risotto help us to make sure that that cost is fair. We hope to have a bid from Goring Construction by Monday. And at that time, if we feel the work's in line with, you know, the market rates, which aren't great right now, and it's hard to say what fair market is with everything going on, but we think we have a pretty good idea. So with that, we think we could award the contract, and we're looking for authorization to be able to do that. So for next steps, if we can do that, we should have our building permit by then. And the plan would be to, first and foremost, stabilize the building through the winter, remove what we have to and stabilize it. Most of the stucco work, the roof might go in before the wet season, but we might just have to stabilize the building and then let it sit unpainted and patched, if you will, and do the stucco work in the spring and along with the paint. So, so that's where we're at. We're asking for this emergency declaration, asking to authorize myself to be able to just basically do what work we have to do that's necessary. As part of this emergency declaration, we would report back to the board at every single meeting of any actions taken. An alternative suggested in here, if you wanted to, is we could use the fiscal committee for a certain level of control also. But you know, the timing of that can be tricky to get the members together, but that's certainly an option before you. That wouldn't take as much time as doing full board meetings every time we have to have an action. So that concludes my report. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Questions from board members, comments?
Dan, this is Greg. I was just curious, are all 4 walls involved, or are we just dealing with the parking lot and the street, or what?
Yeah, it's mostly the wall over the parking lot and over the street, and that's where the balconies are. There's very few windows on the backside, and that's one alternative we could look at as a cost-cutting measure, but it is a fairly older building too, and it might make sense. I might ask for a quote to only do the 2 walls and just paint the other walls, patch and paint the other walls. And if there was a substantial savings for that, we would do that. I will say preliminary information we're getting, and it's consistent between a couple of contractors, is it looks like all told this is going to be about a $700,000 job, about $300,000 of which is the stucco removal and putting the stucco back.
And where would the money come from?
Sure, the money would come similar how when we bought the building, we would use SRTA's LTF allocations or local transportation fund allocations. That's kind of our mainstay of our budget, and there's a lot of flexibility in using that. What we would have to do is long term, we can get reimbursed for it through our cost allocation plans and our various grantors. Just like the building, we can get reimbursed for. We can get reimbursed for these repairs. But we have to amortize that over 20 years. So we won't see all that cash come back for 20 years and, you know, 1/240, one month at a time or 1 year at a time. So, so what we need is cash flow up front. And we do have cash. We do have a building reserve fund that we've tried to build up, but it doesn't come anywhere near this amount. We can hold off on repaying what we call a TDA loan fund. It's money that actually SRTA has. It's cash in the bank, sort of a rainy day fund, whether it's for transit agencies or for SRTA. That is what we borrowed from to purchase the building. And we've been paying that back, but we can borrow from that again. There's about $1 million sitting in that account as well. We're also still pursuing insurance company appeals. Like the staff report says, we have an initial denial letter, but we're pursuing all options there as well.
Mary, you had a question?
Well, that was my question, is if how that appeal was going, if there's any feedback is how much recourse that you have, because the situation evidently was happening prior to the purchase of the building, but was not noted in the inspection. So I was curious to know how that was playing out.
Yeah, you know, insurance companies, what they are, they think of reasons to deny, and there are wording in the policy. So anything that's slow and gradual, according to them, and is not based on an event like a pipe broke or the roof gave way, then it's not covered. Of course, that's how mold is mostly created, with slow, gradual intrusion. So mold is covered, but not for most of the reasons that mold ends up being there in the first place. That said, we're going to go ahead and pursue all our options. There are insurance advocates through our insurance company, and we'll see. But Mary, I was thinking the exact same thing, that maybe they're looking at it from the wrong angle, and it's not the mold, it's the purchase of the building and unknown construction defects, or, you know, possibly information not disclosed that should have been as part of the escrow process.
That's what I was thinking. Yes.
Anybody else?
Yeah, Dan, this is Greg again. If a major cost is removing all the stucco, I would think that we should just leave the stucco on the back and the north side and maybe paint that with a good sealant paint. I've had a stucco house before that had leak, and I was able to paint the outside with a sealant paint and solve any moisture problem. So, and it seemed like a major part of the cost is removing the stucco and scaffolding back up and putting on new stucco. So that might take the magnitude of the job in half.
Yeah, I don't know if it would take it in half, and we've talked about this option because, you know, the stucco is mostly labor, and of course this is all prevailing wage. You know, that it might, if it's, let's say it's $300 for the stucco in the end, and I asked for what it would cost to not do those two sides of the building. You know, my hunch is it might save us $50,000, but then we do have, you know, 20-plus-year-old stucco that will have to maybe get treated at some point in the future. Wouldn't match as well, but it's certainly an option. You know, if you folks tell me as the board right now that to save, you know, $50,000 to $100,000, that's something you'd be interested in, we could do that. Or I could, on that item, there would be time to report back to you and make a decision then, because the stucco probably wouldn't be done until the spring.
Is the stucco only 25 years old? That's fairly new for stucco.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact age of the building. It seems like it was built around 95.
I mean, I happen to own a stucco house that's 50 years old, and the stucco is still in good shape. I sure wouldn't be tearing it off for, you know, superficial reason just because it's 25 or 50 years old. It's not an age reason to pull it off. You're taking off the front because, you know, you had construction techniques that got behind the stucco. It wasn't the stucco itself that was leaking.
Yeah. We'll certainly look at that. And like I said, before any decisions made, I can bring it back to the board as part of my reports I bring back at each board meeting.
Well, and the other thing you can do, Dan, if you're just trying to match it all up, you don't need to, if the stucco on that side is okay, you can just put another coat over the top of it. It's very common. And that way, that would be far less cost in for removing and all that stuff, or putting new wire on and just color coded to make a nice fresh coat to match everything else.
Right.
A color coat over the top.
Yeah, yeah. Other questions? Aaron, can you write us a check?
I think you said Baron, correct? Not Aaron?
Oh yeah, I did say Baron, and I figured I'd get him the answer. I knew he'd go for it. I guess Baron, there's no checkbook in your hand then, huh?
No, sir. Not
Okay,
today. What is the value of the building itself, as roughly as it stands today?
We purchased it for $1.1 million, and since then we've done some extensive remodeling upstairs, and now there's remodeling going on downstairs. So what the current value is, I don't know. The remodel work was about $400,000. If you figure that added to the value of the building, you might figure 1.5 million. Also, as most of you know, the value of the building has to do with what tenants there are too, what lease tenants. And now that we have tenants both downstairs, and we'll be bringing a new tenant to you for board action at the end of October, that should add to the value of the building as well, because these are good long-term leases.
Plus, I would imagine with the lack of space that's going to drive your value up as well. Because we bought it when the market was, kind of not doing its best. So I think we got in on a pretty good deal. Anybody else?
So if we spend 700,000 on a repair, what are our total annual rents? So how long would it take for the rents to pay for the repair?
Well, that's not really the intent. Like I said, but I can answer your question because I did the math. So the downstairs tenant, if they exercise their full 10-year lease, 2 5-year options, that's just about $800,000. That was something reported to you in the staff report when we approved it. So basically, you know, that would cover it. But because these costs are attributable to the whole building, we don't have to rely on the leasing to do that. As a matter of fact, once we start recouping the cost over 20 years, and as we pay off our other loans on the building over 20 years, we should be able to take all that lease revenue and put it towards the building improvement fund. And then at the end of a 20-year period, obviously you're gonna have improvements there, but you know, if you had no improvements, we'd accrue about $1.3 million over 20 years for building improvements. And, you know, and that might be, you know, what it ends up costing. The silver lining to this is that we have an upstairs remodel, we're gonna have a downstairs remodel, a new roof, new skin on the building. We've replaced many of the HVAC units. And so we basically got a building in pretty good shape, all sealed up and ready to go. And as long as we maintain it, you know, it should be a good sound building for years to come.
Well,
Yeah.
I was just kind of looking at the cash flow. So you didn't mention what the upstairs rent is?
You'll see that at the board meeting. It's a small portion of the upstairs. You know, LAFCO used to be in there, as you recall. And now a new tenant is coming in, and it's about $800 a month.
Yeah, I just was going to say, when we bought the building, as you mentioned, Dan, we knew that the roof was near the end of its life. So when you take out the cost of putting on a new roof, which we're probably going to have to do in a few years anyway, that kind of helps get the price down a little bit. And to Greg's point, if we can save some money on those backside walls with that stucco, you might get it down another 100,000 or something. Okay, anybody else? Otherwise, I'd be looking for a motion to move forward.
So moved.
And that was Barron.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll second that. It's Mary.
Okay, thank you, Mary. We have a motion and a second. Any other comments, suggestions, concerns? Hearing and seeing none. We're going to do a roll call vote. Is that what you're going to tell me, Amy? Thank you.
Yes. So we'll start the roll call vote. Board Member Commenti,
Yes.
Board Member Rickert,
Yes.
Chair Modi,
Yes.
Board Member Browning,
Yes.
Board Member Resner,
Aye.
Board Member Winter,
Aye.
and Board Member Watkins.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think that concludes our business today. Thanks everybody for jumping in and helping us get this thing done before the rains come. Really appreciate that. Just to announce that our next board meeting is scheduled for October 20th at 3 p.m. via Zoom. And thanks everybody. Have a great day and thanks for being here. The meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.